going to go through some of the bones randomly. It's not everything. I'm not leading you to anything. I'm just helping you to recall some information here. If you cannot see very well, you can move around the room or you can stay there. Okay. So first of all, we will look at the skull. This is the anterior view of the skull. So name the bone. Frontal bone. Right. Name this area around the eye. Orbit. If you have a hole, name the hole. Supraorbital foramen. Infraorbital foramen. What about this slit or crack here? Supraorbital fissure. Infraorbital fissure. And name this bone. Name the bone. Name the bone. And there is a little protuberance here. What is that? Mental protuberance, because this is your mental region. What about the hole on the mandible? Mental foramen. And then if you see in the maxilla and the mandible, you see these grooves, these depressions. Anybody know? Alveolus. Okay, this projection is the alveolar process. And then if you see here inside the nasal cavity, this is the nasal septum that separates the two nasal cavities, right and left, but it's made up of a couple of bones. What is the bone at the lower end? Vomer, B-O-M-E-R. What about this one? Name the bone. Ethmoid bone. Name the part. Perpendicular plate of the ethmoid bone. These are your conchae, the superior and middle nasal conchae. They are also part of the ethmoid bone. The other parts of the ethmoid bone you will see on the floor of the cranium inside. Okay. And what else can we see there? That's good for this view. So I'm going to change the view. Okay, in this view, it's a lateral view. You can see some more bones and some sutures. So what is this suture? Coronal suture. What about this suture? Squamous suture. This bone? This bone? Temporal bone. So remember, you know the bones very well. So the process names, they get switched. Okay. So this process, name this process. Zygomatic process of the temporal bone. And this process, temporal process of the zygomatic bone. So you'll see a thin wavy line like a suture that separates the two processes. So the arrow can be anywhere on the process of the bone, but you have to read the question. Okay. If you are asked for name the bone, it could be here or it could be here, anywhere here. But if it's asking for the process, it will be anywhere from here to here, on this bone, or here to here for this bone. Everybody got that? All right. What else do we have? Okay. What is this passage? External acoustic or auditory meatus. This process, mastoid process. Okay. Let's change the view. You see inside the orbit, you see a hole back there. What is that? Optic foramen or canal. Passage is the canal, the hole is the optic foramen. Okay, this is the floor of the cranium. Name the part. Foramen magnum. See where my arrow is ending? I mean here my pencil tip, but if it were an arrow, think it's an arrow. Name the hole. jugular foramen. Name the hole. Oops. Carotid canal. Right? Sometimes you see the separation, sometimes you don't see. Then on both sides, if you see, there is a set of 3 holes or openings. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. The smallest one, foramen spinosum, foramen ovale, foramen lacerum. Rotenum is up there on the top. The optic foramen, they are there. What about this structure? Name the part, the projection. Crista galli. Name the bone. Ethmoid bone. Name this plate, this area around the bone, around the projection, this area. Cribriform plate. The holes are the cribriform foramen or foramina. Foramen singular, foramina plural. What about this area? Lesser wing, and here, down here, greater wing. Okay, so this is basically your sphenoid bone that looks like a bat or a butterfly. So this structure in the middle of sphenoid bone, sella turcica. Okay, sella turcica. The cavity in the front, middle, and the back of the skull, we call it cranial fossa, anterior, middle, and posterior cranial fossa. And let me find the inferior view of the skull. Okay. Name this part. Palatine process of the maxilla. And then you see this suture that separates. There's a suture here, there's a suture here. These 2 little bones are separated by that. So what are these bones? Palatine bones. There's one on the right, one on the left. The suture is in between, so they call interpalatine suture. And what else do we have? We have the foramen magnum and this structure right around the foramen magnum. Yeah, let me find a better view of this skull. Okay, give me a second. Okay, so these 2 are your condyles, the occipital condyles. What about this process on the edge, the lateral most? Mastoid process, right? Mastoid process, occipital condyle, your foramen magnum, and the bonus, occipital bone. And then in this view, what is this? Styloid process. Looks like a stylus, right? So I think that pretty much covers the skull.